Oh, wait a minute. So everybody can come to the meeting at 7?
That's what it says at 7 p.m. is for, see attachment Pinnacle Port directly after executive meeting, join September
Yes,
29th.
it's an executive session, and
It's at 7 p.m. is supposed to be for
then right
every,
at,
yes.
then right after that's a special meeting open to all owners.
Well, they're
So
gonna
will
have,
that be 8 o'clock?
well, they're gonna have
Actual time?
7 p.m. because that's what we advertise, 7 p.m.
Didn't
for,
it start saying? They're having a meeting with the lawyer first, and when they get done with that, they're going.
Yeah, everybody mute. If you're, but I think it's so it starts at 7 p.m. Central.
yes, that's for everyone.
Okay, 7 p.m. Central, which would be 8 o'clock Eastern. And then, okay. Well, here we are. It's 7:31, so we're going to get started. Thank you for coming, especially Tim and Heather, for agreeing to tell us about themselves and why they have decided to take the great leap and try to and serve on the board of directors. We so appreciate you. You've been going through this interview process today and running and then also serving.
Huh?
It's
Oh,
so
yeah, it's in my bag somewhere.
so Pam
No,
and iPhone and anybody that if everybody would mute except for Heather
I
and
heard
Tim.
you missed
Oh,
it
yeah?
this weekend.
How do I mute?
Thought you were going to go back out for dinner, huh?
Stephanie,
I think I can mute people.
how do you turn it down?
You can.
Click on it, and then the bar graph shows up, and then you cursor left.
I hear somebody. So everybody please mute so we can get started. What we're going to do, thank you all so much. What we're going to do is this is the Owners Collaborative, which our purpose is educate and empower and have fun. That's the purpose of the Owners Collaborative. And so tonight we're going to interview two candidates. We're going to go back and forth with questions. And then anyone that's here on the call or wants to write some questions in the chat, they've agreed they're going to try to answer them to the best of their ability. And then that'll be it. And this will be taped for others to listen to as they have time and interest.
You have us on mute.
Okay, Jen Kovacs, please mute.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Here, John, mute for me. I don't know how to mute.
Okay, I don't know how to mute you either.
Well, he'll get it.
Okay. All right, and just a reminder, this is taped. So we're going to begin with our opening statements, and I don't know whoever wants to go first. Just give us 2 or 3 minutes about anything you'd like, where you live, what your interests are, why you're running, that kind of thing. So Tim, would you like to go first?
Heather can go.
Heather,
Okay.
do you want to go first?
Go ahead,
Sure.
Heather. I'm
Sure.
fine. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my name is Heather Shipley. I own B3606. Me and my significant other of 17 years, Joe Wade, we own B3606. Joe bought A707 back in either 99 or 2000. He can't remember which, but anyway, we'll say 2000. Bought A707 back in 2000. Bought PH5 a couple years later. Bought it pretty much to flip. And so he sold PH5 and kept A707 until winter of 21 or 22. And Joe and I bought B3606 in March of 2018. And so I came along with Joe in 2009. Started coming down to Pinnacle Port with Joe in 2009. So I've been here for a few years. And love it. I have no plans to sell it, and that's one reason why I'm running for the board. I'm in it for the long haul. It will belong to our daughter. She's 12 years old. Something happens to him and happens to me, it'll be passed down to her. I had 4 children. I lost a son in 2012. He was born 10/13/11. He died 10/15/2012. And then we have Ariel, she's our youngest. I have a 27-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old son. And I am a licensed master social worker and clinical psychotherapist. And what I like to do for fun is Oh, I've had kids for 27 years. What is fun? Um, I just like being on the water. I've got a boat up here on North Lake, and I love the lake. I love the beach, and I hope to retire to Pinnacle Port someday. I might have to kick my daughter out, but I'll retire there one day.
All right.
That's
Thank
about
you.
it for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Tim?
All right. Well, my wife and I um bought A302 along with four other couples in July 1st of 2020, 5 years ago. I am a CPA. I started my career out in a big four accounting firm, stayed there for about 12 years. Then I went to a controller, director of finance for a major concrete precast and pipe manufacturing company. And in 2023, I left there and become the CFO of one of the largest heavy haul forestry and intermodal chassis manufacturers in the U.S. Um, I have a daughter.
This meeting is being recorded.
Sorry.
I have a daughter. She's 27, got married earlier this year. Why I want to be on the board is to help make Pinnacle Port great again, try to bring unity to the board of directors and the owners, and continue the progress that we've started to see over the last few months. And my qualifications is I've been in the business world for about 30 years now. And my accounting background will help us understand the finances of Pinnacle Port and help to convey those to the owners.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to go ahead and ask you the first question since you're talking, then we'll pass it back to Heather. What is your vision for the future of Pinnacle Port?
Well, I've only been here for 5 years, but I've gained some valuable knowledge of what Pinnacle Port was like in the past, and I want to get Pinnacle Port back to that level where everyone wants to come to Pinnacle Port um, and just make sure Pinnacle Port get back to what it was years ago.
Very good. Heather, what do you think about your vision?
Well, I was here 15, 16 years ago, and um, things were a lot nicer and a lot better then. They started going downhill about 8 years ago, 6 to 8 years ago. So I remember, and it's so sad for me to see how I've seen it go downhill because I remember it from 15, 16 years ago. Maybe it was that I didn't pay as much attention back then, could be the case, but I do remember what it was like 15, 16 years ago. The landscaping was lush and beautiful. Our GM, he wasn't as good as the GM we have now. That was Jack Chumley. He was um, would slightly speak to the owners. I got a hold of him a couple times. He was okay, not as good as and responsive as the GM we have now. But I would like Tim. I would like to get things back to where they were. I would like for them to be better. I would like and my role for the board would be as kind of a social one. Tim's the finance man, and I think we absolutely definitely need him. Role will be a social one. I want to see everyone on the board get along. I want to fix whatever social issues. I think sometimes people just have a hard time. There are personal vendettas that stop progress, and that's what I don't want to see. And so I would like to get the social level back to where it should be so everything can progress.
Good. Thank you. And this is for Heather. What do you think are the greatest challenges facing Pinnacle Port in the next 2 years? Well, you're going to be serving for 2 years if you're elected.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the plumbing and all of our sears, along with routine maintenance, we've had so much routine maintenance get deferred, and catching that up and the monetary um, challenges that we're about to face is undoubtedly going to be the largest largest challenges we have. And my role with that is obviously not finances. That's what Tim's for. My role will be to make certain that we don't have any dual relationships, we don't have any nepotism, we don't have any favors, we don't have anybody pocketing anything. I want everything honest and fair, and I will see to it that it is honest and fair.
Very good. Tim, what would you say to that? What do you think is the greatest challenges facing Pinnacle Port in the next 2 years?
Well, I think the number one challenge is getting the milestone report repairs and the Sears report repairs completed, but they need to be completed in the most efficient and cost-effective manner possible. I think with our new accountant, we're getting the financials in a better situation. The GM, every time I've talked to him, he's just been wonderful. He's very good and wants to be transparent as much as he can on everything we can. But I think we got to get these repairs made, and it's got to be done efficiently, but in the most cost-effective manner.
Very good. And Tim, if chosen as a director, what would you do to help meet these challenges?
I would work closely with the other board members and the general manager to make sure that we have a timeline that can be shared with the owners for the repairs, and make sure the timelines are adhered to as closely as possible. I would work to make sure costs are controlled and any additional costs to be incurred above the quoted or bid prices are understood and justified, not just rubber stamping some kind of change order.
Very good. Back to you, Heather. What would you do to help meet these greatest challenges that you mentioned?
Well, like I said, my role is kind of a social one. I want to be certain that we don't have any nepotism, nobody's doing any favors, that the contractors and third-party folks that we hire are, number one, efficient and can do the job, and that there's no, like I said, dual relationships, there's no favors, nobody's pocketing anything. In the past, we've had some serious unethical communication between board members and contractors, and that is not going to be allowed. And I would like for clauses to set there to be clauses. If I have my way, I'll have clauses in those contracts that if anything unethical is caught, it will stop the contract. I'm not going to have it.
Thank you.
To be cost efficient, you have to be certain everybody is doing what they're supposed to do and for the right reason.
Great. Are you, Heather, are you familiar with the Florida statutes, the governing condo associations? Some like they have the Chapter 718, that's a state law. And then there's a new law that just came through, House Bill 913. And then we have a lot of association documents, our bylaws. Have you had a chance to look at any of those or familiar with them at all?
I'm familiar with the ones that I've been interested in. I will tell you that I haven't looked over every one of them. Anything that I felt has applied to me, yes, I am familiar with. And I do plan on reading the rest of those, of course, if I am elected. But I am pretty much familiar with most of them, and I'm very familiar with the ones that have been applicable in some challenges that I have faced in the last year. And most people know what those are with SimLive and whatnot. I'm very familiar.
Do you think, yeah, I have here, what is your response to those requirements? Do you think they're important that we follow them, or are they more like guidelines?
You know, I see that as like I do everything else. Laws have to be followed, and that's all there is to that. They have to be followed. Our documents, those of course have to be followed too. So yeah, I see our governing docs and the laws as something that has to be followed.
Tim, what do you think? Have you seen or had a chance to read anything about the Florida statutes, the Chapter 718, that new House Bill 913 that just came through, and on any of our association documents, our bylaws? Have you had a chance to ever look at any of those? I know
I
you.
have I have looked at them somewhat, and I'm somewhat familiar with them, but I still need a lot of studying. I will study these in depth between now and the date of the annual meeting. So if elected to the board, I'll have a strong working knowledge of those requirements. I think those requirements should be followed. They're laws and there are governing documents. And if they weren't there to be followed, why do we even have them? You got to follow the laws and your governing documents. And I think in light of the condo issues over the last few years, I think we did need legislation.
Good. All right. Next, also, Tim, are you familiar with this is part of our bylaws and all, and a new memo that came out from the attorney. Are you familiar with the manner in which the reserves funds are to be used? The tower versus mid-rises versus common areas?
I think I do. Always, I believe I do. And I actually agree that, we probably should not have everybody sharing in everything. The tower should pay for their stuff, the mid-rise is their stuff, and the common areas should be paid by a group effort. I think it does appear to me that everybody's not completely sure of what is considered the common area. So I think we need to have something that defines those areas specifically.
Great. And then Heather, are you familiar? Do you know a little bit about the tower, mid-rise, and common area rules, and perhaps
I
the new
do.
memo? What do you think about that?
I do. I used to think, and I still are with this, like Tim said, that the tower should be paying the tower, the mid-rise should be paying the mid-rise. And if you look at our governing docs, it states that the tower is one entity, B1C1, if I have this correct. It's two mid-rise, B1C1, and I believe they're supposed to have their own board of directors as well. You may correct me on that, but anyway, that the mid-rise pay for the mid-rise, the tower pays for the tower, and everyone pays for the common areas. I somewhat agree with that. I've always been under the impression, before I dove into the governing docs, that we're all one community and everybody kind of shares everything where everybody, and I look at this when I drive over that bridge, come down 331 or come down 98 from 331, I see our whole community. And so I've always been the impression that everybody pays for everything. And I'm torn on that. I've owned in the tower, I've owned in the mid-rise, and I'm a little torn on that. I think that everybody has a shared interest in the whole place. If the tower goes downhill, everybody's affected. If mid-rise goes downhill, everybody's affected. So I have a teeter-totter with that. I understand the rules. I do. Does that mean I agree with them? Sometimes, but that's always been my understanding, which from my understanding is now incorrect. But
All right. Well, let's see next. iPhone 36, you keep popping up, so maybe you could go on mute. That would be helpful because I can't mute you. This is back to Heather again. What current policies, written or otherwise, would you change, if any? And I have a few here, so I'll go down the list. What would you change, if you would, about board meetings? Dates, times, lengths, and would you change anything if you had the chance?
yeah, board meeting. I think long board meetings are cumbersome for folks. I would like to have them more often, and they would be shorter. I think board meetings more often are always a better idea because people get more involved and can learn more, and there's not as much ambiguity with people as there is with longer board meetings. People tire, they drop out, this, that, and what have you. I would love to do more board meetings and have them a little shorter if I get my druthers.
would you do anything regarding financial reporting to owners if you had a chance?
Yeah, I would. I would like to see better financial reporting. Now, I know that is that's a whopper. Um, Most people know I'm not that hip on the budget. It confuses me. I joined the finance work group and gained a lot of understanding. Tim himself helped me a whole lot with understanding finances, so it's not quite as far off for me. But yes, I would love to see that more often and more clear so that people are not as confused. I would love to see that broken down into more layman's terms where not only I can understand it better, but every owner can understand it better.
I'll keep going down the list, and I'm going to ask the same list to Tim. Do you have any opinion about owner maintenance by Pinnacle Port staff? Can you hear me? Heather, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to Tim.
No,
I'm so
I'll go
sorry.
back to Tim. Tim gets these after you. He's listening to your answers. Everybody is. Owner maintenance by Pinnacle Port staff. Do you have an opinion about that?
Oh, yeah. I loved owner maintenance. I mean, you couldn't beat it, right? You call maintenance, they come in, you have a leak, whatever, that's a mutually beneficial. I remember owner maintenance, they didn't charge. Or if they did, I never got a bill. But maybe Joe got it. I don't know. But nonetheless, it was always beneficial. And I have no problem with paying a nominal fee for anything. But absolutely, I would so bring back owner maintenance. That was a win-win-win.
How about SimLiv? Do you happen to have any opinion about SimLiv?
Me? Opinion about SimLiv? Are you kidding? Yes, I have an opinion about SimLiv. I think it's illegal. And I think you're about to find that out tomorrow. Because I have been in contact with the Florida attorney and I don't believe it's legal. And I do not use it. And that was kind of shoved down our throat, I feel like. And the last board, I feel like they did a poor job. And I feel like there may have been some nepotism. There may have been some dual relationships. And here came SimLiv. And when I refused to use it, I was threatened with fines that, of course, wasted more of our attorney's time, wasted more of our association's money for the attorney. Found out they couldn't slap fines on me for not using it. So I do not conform very easily. Hi, Dan, iPhone 36. I don't conform easily, and that's one thing I did not conform on. I stood up to that, and I still don't use it. And I think you'll find after tomorrow that something will have to be done about it.
Are there any other policies, written or otherwise, that come to mind that you would change?
No, not to come to mind right offhand. I don't think any that I would change. Maybe some I would modify if I could, but most of the time that would take a vote of 3/4 of the ownership. I believe it's 3/4 of the ownership.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was a long question, and I appreciate your answer. Tim, back to you on this long question. What current policies, written or otherwise, would you change, if any? And the first point I wanted to ask you about was board meetings, dates, times, lengths. Would you change anything if you had the opportunity?
Well, I think that the quarterly, I agree with Heather. We probably need to have more meetings so that they can be less time or shorter. We have way too long of meetings. People get lost in them and all. And if we set a date at the first of the year for the quarterly board meetings, those are to be adhered to. Unless it's a something extreme circumstance that it needs to be changed, that's the only way I would want it changed. And we got to find a way to get these board meetings shorter, but still allow for the owner participation.
How about any thoughts about financial reporting to owners?
Well, the Pinnacle Port belongs to the owners, And I think every owner should be provided with some, at least summary financial information on interim periods. If elected, I'd push the board to have periodic summary financial information provided, along with maybe some short management discussion and analysis of those. Basically giving an explanation of why something is over budget primarily. But we need to be cognizant of our GM and our accountants' time and not overburden them with questions. So one way to help do that would possibly come up with a method that owners could submit questions and not just call the office and ask for information to be provided.
It's a good idea. Do you have opinion about owner maintenance by Pinnacle Port staff?
I agree the Pinnacle Port staff should provide some maintenance. Again, we don't need to overburden them to where it takes away from the entire complex. But I think it's a good thing to offer to the owners. It's not gonna be a big money maker. We make a little bit, like last year, 24-25, I think the net profit was $19,000 roughly. So it's not going to be a money maker, but we need to put the owners first.
Do you have an opinion about SimLive?
Well, that's a very controversial issue at Pinnacle Port. It does produce a fairly significant amount of money. It produced about $162,000 last year. I'm not completely opposed to it, but I would first want to see the legal opinion telling us the legality of using that. If it was determined to be legal, which I'm not sure if it is or not, I'm no attorney. I would want them to tell us first. I think we should look at some changes to that, where I agree that the owner shouldn't have to pay, and maybe their immediate family not pay, but we don't need everybody. I mean, I know everybody's not going to agree with what I say, but that's my personal opinion.
All right. Are there any other policies that you have an opinion about that you would seek to change?
I don't think so. Not at this time. I'm sure there will be as I become even more familiar with the documents.
Mm-hmm. Now, the next one is kind of a hard question. I don't know. Oops. Sorry. That's my son. What would you do if one or more directors might break or have a conflict of interest, or if the board doesn't report and provide information to owners, or possible, not saying this happened at all, but a misuse of funds or casting votes in a way that might financially benefit their own private business? You're very, I don't want to say too much about you, but I read a lot. And what would you do if something like that happened? And someone should mute if they aren't ready. What if you saw something that looked a little wasn't quite right? How would you approach it? You're a professional. What would you do?
Well, I think I would first address it with the full board so that everybody sees what it, make sure I'm not just jumping off the deep end on something. Then I would probably request the issue to be addressed with the Pinnacle Port attorney. We need to make sure we have all the facts gathered before going to the owners because we need to protect Pinnacle Port, but we need to make sure all the facts are gathered before we go to everybody.
Right, but you would go ahead and still make a point of looking into it?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I mean, we can't just sweep it under the rug.
Heather, what would you do if you saw something that didn't look like it followed the bylaws or the state law or a conflict of interest? What would you do?
Well, if it had to do with an individual, like another board member or a couple of other board members, I would start with them, and see if I could resolve it with them first without bringing the GM into it or other board members into it. Sometimes things are just a misunderstanding. Sometimes people do things by accident. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I really do. And a lot of times it's just a misunderstanding. A lot of times it's a misunderstanding on my part. I often misunderstand things. It's not unheard of. I would bring it up to the person or of those who were involved first and see what they had to say. If it turned out to be something that needed more attention, then I would involve the entire board and or the GM and the attorney and work my way out from there.
All right, thank you. This is for you, Heather. Have you reviewed, we're going to ask some budget questions now. Have you reviewed the current past budget and the reserves as well as the expenditures, like the last quarterly statement or the draft P&L? Are you familiar with any of that?
I am as familiar, I think, as a layman can be about that. To the best of my understanding, yes.
So you've read it over and on the last, per the unaudited profit and loss report from 24-25, we are over 700,000 in debt for unbudgeted expenses. And what is your response to this shortfall? What is your response to that?
Well, I kind of like to know how we got there. For one, I would have to have things a little bit more broken down for me, like with attorney fees, for example. I don't remember exactly how much we were over on attorney fees, but so I know how we got above and beyond the budgeted amount for attorney fees, which was, I believe, a pet project of a previous board member, and that is not going to be allowed. We cannot use the association's attorney for our personal attorney. Some things are going to have to be trimmed down, but that is a lot over the budget. So I'm not very savvy on finances, but some things I feel that I would be efficient on cutting down cost of, especially things like attorney fees. I feel like we had some folks who were using the attorney for a personal attorney, and attorney fees are hefty. So
this is part of that question. Then I'll go to Tim. What would you do if you were on the board and how would you keep track of the budget? And what would you do if we were all of a sudden, right now we're all of a sudden doing it because I just found out, but what would you do to make sure it doesn't happen under your watch?
Well, I guess I would have to do a better job at keeping track of the finances. And like I said, like all of a sudden, things don't really happen all of a sudden. They happen over the year. We find out about it all of a sudden, right? So we have to make sure, number one, that our money is used efficiently, each and every budgeted item. What can we cut back on? What are we doing too much of? And especially in the coming years with the Sears repairs and the routine maintenance repairs, we have to make sure that our contractors are not taking us for a ride. We have to make sure that nobody's profiting off anything like dual relationships and nepotism, favors, things like that, that's not costing the association money. And that's where my concentration will be, is in hiring contractors. We have to make sure that they are efficient, timely, and there's no funny business.
Okay.
Funny business equals money.
Tim, back to you. This is the financial questions. Have you reviewed the current and past budgets and reserves as well as the expenditures this past year?
I have. I went through them. I think I'm not going to say as much as I would on everyday practice. But I have reviewed the budgets and and everything and expenditures. You want me to just move into the next part?
Yes, please.
And the prior budgets, in my opinion, there were probably some line items that warranted further explanations. But we don't need to dwell on the past. We need to move this project. We need to move Pinnacle Port forward. I've reviewed the 25-26 budget, and it appears to be a fairly solid budget. Maintenance, that's kind of that's really kind of something that's up in the air every year just because of the age of the buildings. That's a
don't
number
turn
that's
that
going to be
on. It's hurting my eyes.
that's going to be a difficult number to project until we get all these repairs done.
Excuse me, Sheila. Sheila, please mute. Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, hang on.
Tim.
I thought I was.
Go ahead, Tim.
As far as the $700,000 of unbudgeted expenses, I've kind of gone through and compared that budget to the actual. Attorney fees were $52,000 over budget. Consulting fees $46,000. The big number was special projects. Safety of $255,000. Safety inspections of $26,000. Cable TV $98,000. Building maintenance $137,000 and HVAC of $45,000. I don't think a lot of these could have been prevented. I think those numbers are probably maybe the consulting fees and the attorney fees, but everything I've seen on the special project is stuff that we probably needed to get done. I'm not sure a lot of it, yeah, like I said, not sure a lot of it could have been prevented. But I think we've probably, the budget may have been done in a vacuum and not went to each board member asking what they felt was needed to be done the next year so that they could provide for those expenses. It appears that the budget was prepared using primarily prior year data and not looking forward. If I get on the board, I would push that we look forward. As the baseline, you do use prior year data, but you also got to take into effect what is going to come up different from prior year in the next year. And I think these overages should have been communicated to the owners in a more timely manner. I think that's the big thing, is getting these overages. If we're going to have overages, let's communicate them to the owners and give explanations as to why in a more timely manner.
Good. Also, what would you do to make sure that we don't have this huge shortfall in the future?
Well, I would, it's the old saying, I'd keep my thumb on the financials. I would be looking at those a lot more often than most people, since, by nature, I'm an accountant and that's my job.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Next one. Are you familiar with the $44,600 that the board donated to the American Cancer Society on June 24th of this year? Are you?
I am aware that there was a donation. I feel that the American Cancer Society is a very worthy organization, but if these funds weren't there to be, we have too much that we need funds for. So if it was just going to be given away, we should have put it in our own kitty, in our own funds. But if the funds truly belonged to Miss Jones, we probably should have refunded those to her, no matter how anyone feels about how the funds were obtained.
Do you think that it was important that the owners be made aware of the funds and the donation and any of the issues related to it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the owner should have been informed of this. I mean, $44,000 is pretty significant.
Heather, back to you on this question. Are you familiar with the the 44,600 that was donated to the American Cancer Society on 6/24 this year?
I'm aware that we made a donation. I'm not exactly certain why. I know it has something to do with Janet Jones. And like Tim, I agree that that probably should have been, definitely should have been released to the owners beforehand. Now we have 408 units. That means 408, approximately 408 unit owners. I'm not saying that we should have gathered opinions on where the money should have gone, because you will never come to a consensus. You ask 3 people, you'll never come to a consensus. I don't exactly know what that was for or why we made the donation. And that's why we elect directors, right? We elect them because we trust them to do what's supposed to be done. I'm not saying that's always been the case, because it certainly has not. I'm not saying that's always the case now. But to be honest with you, no, I'm not very certain what happened here with that donation and why we made that donation. I really don't know.
Do you think,
Nobody's
you answered
told
it
me
already, do you
anything
think
about
that
that.
it should have been made known to the owners?
Absolutely. It's everybody's money.
Um,
It's my money. It's your money.
I also recently learned, this isn't one of the questions I've told you about, but about $600,000 of PPVR money was recently transferred to the PPCA budget. And that transfer just took place. And I just learned about it. Do you have any comment about it? Because I know it for sure happened, about that much money. Do you have any response about that and the lack of telling owners about it?
That what happened? I'm sorry.
About $600,000 worth of the budget, the PPVR budget, was transferred into the PPCA budget. That's all I know for sure that happened. And it's up to the board to decide, to make decisions about it, is all I was told by the accountant.
Oh.
Were you aware of that? I think it's the
No, I
same
was
kind of
not.
thing. I just,
I'm not aware of that.
okay. All right, this is back to Tim. No, I'll stay with this with you, Heather. Are you aware that the Pinnacle Port Community Association is currently under investigation by the state of Florida, the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, for failure to release financial information to owners?
I am.
Do you have any response to that ongoing investigation?
I do. I was part of that because we had an employee that I don't feel like was responsive to releasing the financial information. And yeah, I'm very familiar with that. I think she was, of course, she's no longer with us, but I don't think she was qualified. And whether or not she didn't release the financial information because she didn't know, or she was doing it out of malintent, that I can't say. But yes, I am familiar, and I think it's suited because we did not get the financial information in a timely manner, and that was part of the job.
Well, it wasn't just her, it was the whole board was aware. But let me turn that over to Tim. Tim, are you aware that PPCA is currently under investigation by the state of Florida, DBPR, for failure to release financial information to owners? And do you have any response?
I am aware of that. I do not know the facts behind that, so it's kind of hard for me to make much comment. If there is validity to it, I think it should be pursued. You know, nobody is above and beyond the rules and laws.
Thank you. All right, we'll get, now we're going to move into the Sears milestone reports, reserve studies. This stays with you, Tim. Have you reviewed or had a chance to review any of the Sears milestone reports, reserve studies? You know, where they identified problem areas and cost estimates?
I've done a preliminary review of the documents and in my opinion, without seeing details. I'm not sure I can make a well-educated analysis of that at this time. Without access to the details used to formulate the documents, it's almost impossible for me to draw a conclusion. There's a lot of information in there. I'm sure there was a lot of assumptions, and without knowing those assumptions, it's difficult just to make a bold statement, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to ask if you think they're accurate. Why or not? But I think you already said that you're familiar, but haven't studied them in detail. Do you have a feeling about what are the primary infrastructure issues of concern at Pinnacle Port?
Well, in my opinion, the plumbing, both the sewage and the fresh water, the concrete spalling, and the water intrusion are probably the three major items that need to be looked at this point. I would have said the elevator restoration for the mid-rises, but that's already in progress and being addressed right now.
Great.
But the plumbing is definitely got to be fixed. You know, the concrete spalling has got to be fixed, and the water intrusion. If not, we're going to have a lot more major issues down the road.
Heather, have you had a chance to look at those reports, or have any thoughts about our problem areas and costs and what's coming up?
No, I haven't looked at them in detail, but I agree with Tim. I haven't looked at them in much detail to speak on it much. And I also agree with him with the plumbing, the water. Anytime you have water intrusion and you have steel and the concrete spalling, that's a serious concern. And the elevators, yes, that obviously is a concern to me because I'm in the mid-rise and was at Pinnacle Port 5 times over a year. I rode my elevator twice. But like Tim said, the elevator stuff is currently underway. But yeah, the concrete spalling and the moisture intrusion we're going to have to get a grip on that ASAP.
Do you think that all these issues, should we perhaps address them all at once, or should they be spread out over time? Do you have any feeling about that?
Well, I do. Like, I know that we've had some talk about like doors and windows and this, that, and roofs and whatnot. No, I don't think everything should be addressed at one time. I think the most pressing things, like the water intrusion, is going to have to be addressed, and the plumbing is going to have to be addressed first and foremost. And other things that have a longer lifespan, we can wait on.
Mm-hmm. Tim, back to you. What do you think? How should we address all these infrastructure problems? All at once or spread out? What are your thoughts, if any?
Well, I think it should be done in phases, but I also think that just taking the plumbing and the water intrusion and the concrete spalling, I think that's going to be time consuming, which will probably take care of the timeline itself. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we should try to do everything at once. We need to pick the most what we need to look at what's the most critical and phase this in.
And the big question, of course, is how do we pay for this? And so I put some options in my questions here. Some options might be immediately increase the HOA dues for all owners. Another, and this could be a mixture of options, individual assessments on specific needs, you know, like tower needs that, mid-rises need that, individual assessments like they did on the roof. There's also talk of a community-wide loan for $40 million. That's what I think is top of the list right now. Also, individual loans for, say a condo needs a loan, they got to go get a loan. And then, do you have any thoughts how we're going to pay for all this, or?
Yeah, and I'm sure I won't be positive in a lot of people's eyes, but the increase in the HOA dues, I'm not a fan of that. There are tax implications of that, but everybody will have to talk to their own tax accountants about how it impacts them. Individual assessments, I think it should be done in assessments, but with the caveat that the association could get what I would call a master loan. If somebody wants to pay the assessments up front and not be a part of the loan, I don't have a problem with a loan as long as it does not encumber everybody's unit. That the units that have paid their assessments, they're excluded from the loan and they don't have a lien on their property. That's the only way I would support a community-wide loan. Individual loans, I think that's a possibility, but I think that's going to be very time consuming for each owner to get a loan of their own. That's the reason I say have Pinnacle Port facilitate a master loan, because you could have one document. Pinnacle Port could provide the data needed one time. If individual owners each loans, our staff's going to have to provide these documents to every lending institution. It's going to be a significant burden on our staff, and it's going to be very time consuming for the owners. That's my take on it. I know I won't be popular to some, but that's my take.
Heather, do you have any thoughts what's the best way to pay for all this? I put some options down in my notes to you all. Immediate increase in the HOA fees, individual assessments, community-wide loan. Do you have any thoughts one way or the other?
Yeah, I gotta agree with Tim. I wouldn't want some folks probably debt to income ratio, whatever, may not be able to get a loan. I want to do what works best for everybody, and I know that there's not a one size fits all here, but it does sound like the option that Tim gave is as close to a one size fits all that we could possibly get. I we're getting hit so hard, so fast with all of these repairs. And I do appreciate that the state of Florida said, you know what, owners cannot defer maintenance anymore. Things have to get fixed. And giving us a little cushion on that. With what's up the House Bill 913 or whatever. But the idea of getting just a $40 million loan, I'm not exactly a big fan of that either. But I think what Tim came up with is probably as close to a fix as we can get. These repairs have to be done. They have to be paid for. And it's my hope and my prayer that everyone can afford it and no one has to bail or go under or really anything than to see that happen. I don't want to lose any of my neighbors, any of my owners. And at the least financially burdensome way.
Do you
But as far as just slapping assessments, I'm not a big fan of that either.
do you think that the board should be laying out some options and trying to alleviate some of the worry right now, or should you just wait till after? I guess we're going to wait till after the election. And but do you think that the board should help individuals and try to give options to them?
Well, sure. I think, and I hope that with our new accountant, that some of these financial things that have not been forthcoming to the owners, that with our new accountant, that this will start to repair itself. And I think that if we can get Tim on the board, that he will be transparent and help owners who, like me, do not necessarily understand all of this, break it down in layman's terms. I certainly will be more than happy to answer any questions by any owner if I understand it and help them understand it. So I don't know if it's the board is not doing this or not doing that, or maybe they don't know either. I'm not certain. It seems like our financial health has been kind of questionable, possibly, and we're getting some things straightened out, and now it's starting to get ironed out, and we're learning more and more. And it's my hope that yes, the board will help owners understand the finances better. And kudos to Barb. Barb has done a wonderful job creating the finance work group with any owner that has wanted to come on with her and understand the finances when she was treasurer. And I knew absolutely zero about the budget. I knew absolutely nothing about it, nothing about tower reserves, mid-rise reserves. I had no idea that the mid-rise was separate than tower. I learned these things by being on the finance work group, and Tim did a great job, was so patient with me and helping me understand these things. And I hope that if Barb is reelected, and I hope she is, that she will continue that. And I know Tim will do an absolutely wonderful job with helping owners understand whatever it is they need to understand. That's the important thing, is that owners know and owners understand.
Very good. Tim, back to you. We've answered some of this already, but I'll go ahead and read it because we have a plan. Given the failure of the current board, this is before the two new people came on, and I'm excluding Barb, the board significantly overspent the budget, failure to provide owners with a clear strategic plan, including priorities and cost estimates. That's been requested a long time, even when Chris was on there. And now he's back. An ongoing lack of communication. Kessler, please mute. The lack of communication, the status of our finances. Are you concerned, Tim, that the proposed $40 million loan, or perhaps $100,000 per unit, may not be spent properly? And what would you do if you were elected to the board to make sure that owners' money is managed properly?
Well, I think with any project, especially a project with the dollar magnitude we're talking about here, there's always concern that there may be what I call fluff in there, to where we're not spending the money the most cost-effective manner. What I would do is push to have, multiple bids from the reputable companies bid on the projects, and using my accounting and contract review knowledge, along with the knowledge of the other owners' expertise, to make sure we get in the most cost effective and spending the money the best way possible for the projects. I would request at a minimum monthly cost updates, and request any change orders be justified to the Engineering and Capital Projects Committee for review and approval. I mean, we can't have enough we can't have enough eyes looking on it, in my opinion. We need as many people looking at it and asking questions as we can get.
Okay, very good. Let's see if I've asked that. to Heather. I'm trying to really kind of, we've been on for an hour, so I'm going to try to pick up the speed a little. I'll skip that one because I think Heather already answered that one. Another one, this is for you, Heather. Lack of communication and professionalism has been a problem with the current board. Not only with owners, but also between directors and the general manager. Do you have any suggestions on improving communication and collaboration among the directors and the GM, the board? How can we get them to work more professionally and work more collaboratively together with your expertise? Maybe you could help that. How would you do that?
Absolutely. Need to speak more often. It seems like there's a lot of miscommunication or non-communication between board members. Too many of them are talking about, I didn't get this email, I didn't open that email, didn't get it, you didn't get it, I didn't send it, you sent it. Too much of that. My solution is that I think that they need to talk more often. I do think we need to have board meetings more often. And I think, like I said, a lot of times interpersonal disagreements can impede progress with the board. Sometimes one of them's got a little vendetta against another one, or two or three have a little vendetta against the other two or three, and it doesn't seem to matter how much sense the solution is. They don't want to go along with it just because they dislike so and so dislikes so and so. No, that needs to be communicated. And believe it or not, there are therapeutic ways of breaking down problem solving. What is the problem? How do we get past it? Pros and cons. Believe it or not, there's games. I do DBT primarily, and in DBT we have a game called the Dime Game, which helps people make rational decisions. There are ways to make decisions other than just tossing them back and forth at each other. And I think that communication needs to be clearer and more often.
Just an aside, what I've noticed is a couple of the board members work together with the GM and make a lot of decisions. And they also, some of them get implemented. And so the whole board is not working together. So that's the whole thing, is how can the whole board work together more effectively? So do you also have on that same question, how would you improve transparency and communication between the board and the GM and the owners? Is there anything you could do there?
Well, I don't know about between the board and the GM. I don't hear any of those conversations, so I don't want to speak on something that I don't absolutely.
Well, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Between the board and the owners, but sometimes the GM and the board work together, but they don't get it down to the owners.
Okay. Yeah, something I've thought about doing is what I would be legally bound to do. I understand that the board has some legal implications, and if I'm elected, I'm certain that I would be educated on that. But I've thought about holding a Q&A via Zoom. People can pop in and out. You don't have to say, if I hold it on the second Tuesday of every month, if people want to at 7 o'clock, from 7 to 8, if somebody wants to pop in at 7:30, and if I'm legally allowed to answer it, I will. Absolutely answer it. And I plan to, if I know the answer, I will give you the answer. If I cannot give you the answer, I will tell you I cannot give you the answer. But I would love to have more FaceTime with owners who have questions and who want to know anything that I can tell them. And I would be willing to once a month have a Q&A drop in for people. If you want to come in and say hello, come in and say hello. If you have a question, come in and ask me. I will do the absolute best that I can to answer you. I think the board FaceTime with owners with the board is really important.
Last question on that topic. Do you support the general manager participating in the owners collaborative meeting like he does with the Wednesday coffee club? Would you support that?
I would. Our GM is obviously instrumental in the association, and he is on one of the Facebook groups, and I'm glad he's there. Let me make this clear. All of them have been there. Whether or not they acknowledge it or not is another ballgame. Somebody's either feeding them this information, which they're getting secondhand, or they log in as a pseudo person, whatever. Yeah, they're innuendo or what's it? Anyway, they're there. They're hearing everything. So I think our GM has done a wonderful job being present and doing what he can, what he's legally allowed to do or say. And I commend him for that, because the last GM that we had, you couldn't even speak to him, either because he wasn't there or he wouldn't take your phone call. You had to make an appointment, whatever. So I absolutely support integrating the GM any way we can. I think hearing things straight from the horse's mouth is always a winner.
Back to you, Tim. Lack of communication and professionalism and transparency. I'm getting a lot of comments about the need for transparency on the side here in the chat. Lack of communication, professionalism, and transparency has been a problem with the current board, not only with owners, but also between directors and the GM. Do you have any suggestions or anything you could do to improve communication and collaboration among the directors and the GM among that group?
Well, I think everyone needs to put their personal feelings and their egos aside and work for the betterment of Pinnacle Port. We're not all going to agree on everything, so we need to have some professional debate and be respectful for each other. And then we need to reach the conclusion that's going to push Pinnacle Port forward. I think some egos and personal feelings have kept some people from expressing their feelings, or either it come across not the way they intended to. The board definitely needs to be transparent in communicating with the owners as much as possible. I mean, I understand there's times when things just, they're in a position that they can't discuss it at that time. It will become where they can at a later date. But as soon as they can, they need to discuss that with the board.
Any ideas about transparency between the board and the owners? For example, do you support the GM participating in collaborative meetings as he does with the Wednesday Coffee Club?
Well, I think the weekly, bi-weekly updates that the general manager gives is great. However, I think there's decisions on the board that could probably be conveyed to the owners in a timelier manner. I would push for these timelier communications with the owners. Yes, I do support the GM being a part of the collaborative meeting. If that's what he wishes to do, I think he can. But again, we've all got to put our personal differences and our egos aside and do what's the best for Pinnacle Port.
Very good. We're getting near the end of the questions. What is the most important thing, Tim, that you would like to achieve during your term in office?
Now, I think transparency between the board and the owners, especially in, me being an accountant, especially in the financial information area.
I love that. How about you, Heather? What is the most important thing you would like to achieve during your term in office?
Well, transparency being one. I'm an owner. I've never served on the board before. I feel like I've lacked a little bit of information. And number two is that I would hope that I would be able to say that I had a hand in everyone getting along, everybody making decisions for the Pinnacle Port, and that I made a difference with interpersonal communication between board members and communication between board members and the GM and the owners.
Very good. Last, did I miss anything? Do either you or Heather or Tim have any final points that you wanted to make that weren't covered yet? No, everybody's happy.
I don't think so. I think I just like in closing the feel that my accounting and finance and business knowledge will be a significant asset to the board. And I just ask that everybody vote for me. And we just need to make Pinnacle Port the best it can be.
Good. Heather, do you have any
Oh.
final, do you want some votes too?
I'd like to have a few. I'll take them. Yeah, I agree with Tim. I think we absolutely need a CPA on our. I'm not a CPA. However, my role, we have folks on the board that are extremely smart with money and with the impending repairs that we're going to have. We've got a few folks on the board that are very good about that. My role will be kind of a social one, to see that our contractors are hired with the utmost efficiency, and that there's no funny business, no unethical anything going on, and that I can and I will get the board of directors to work for the common good of Pinnacle Port. I will put a stop to this arguing and nonsense between board members in front of the whole association.
Very good. Well, thank you both very much. We are an hour and 11 minutes in. Do we want to take some questions from the audience that, would you guys be willing to hang on a little longer for a few questions?
Sure.
Okay, raise your hand if you have like one question per person, or maybe we won't get any questions, but if you have any questions, if you could raise your hand or put it in the chat, that's probably the best. Either one. Barb Biggs, you have an actual hand raised.
Yeah, I was looking where I could raise it, but I didn't see it. I just want to let Heather know, in addition, Catherine helped put the collaborative group together. Tim and Adam helped. So I want to extend my thanks to them as well.
That's the finance
You're
group
welcome.
you're talking about.
Yes.
Adam was a big part of it, and that was great. I also forgot to say that Pam Jones and Lisa Johnson were unable to attend tonight. So they're part of organizing this as well. Appreciate them as well.
Yes, very much appreciated.
Any other questions from the audience? We had a total of 46. We're down to 44. So that's a good crowd. Good crowd.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
All right, let's see if I have.
Thank you for coming.
I did see a lot of chat questions, but a lot of them had to deal with transparency, how to unify the board and get more transparent. And then they were almost all on transparency. Oh, one had a question. If SimLiv goes, how can we make the missing money? How will we pick up that money? Do either of you have any thoughts about revenue?
Well, let me answer this first, since SimLiv is my baby, you know. I think that a lot of folks like SimLiv because of the income it brings in. And I can understand that. I do. I really do understand that. I think that there is an alternative to that. What, I don't know. But I think there will be alternatives to that will not strip owners of their rights, which I believe is what SimLiv is. In fact, I know that's what SimLiv is doing, is stripping owners of their rights. But I believe there will be a happy medium there. And I hate to say I trust our attorney to do so, because the attorney sent me a letter telling me to comply, that he recommended I comply with SimLiv when I don't think it's legal. But I do believe that he will come up, hopefully, with an alternative for the income. But as far as me coming up with an alternative for the income, I don't have one. But I'm certain that we've come up with a happy medium that doesn't strip owners of their legal rights.
We have a question. Mr. Goodman, do you have a question?
Hey, Catherine, thank you. Yep. So as far as an income thing, I had an idea about doing a store at the fountain. That was just a thought. But my question, it goes to the doors and windows. So as I understand, it's not required until 10 or 15 years from now. And that is a significant amount of the $100,000. And it's more of a thought than a question. And my thought is that I think it's more manageable if we can take care of, as looks like both of you are on board with doing the plumbing and making sure that the water intrusion is secured, and figuring out a way maybe to delay the price of the doors and windows. I think that would be a huge impact and give us just a relief independently on that. And that's just my thought on that.
Thank you. Good thought. Anyone else? All right. Looks like we don't have any more. So I think we're going to call it a day. And thank you both so much. I think the fact that Tim and Heather have agreed to go on the hot seat for some and have some very hard questions, even for and be open to the audience, it shows how they really are committed to transparency. And it's they don't get paid to be on the board. I think yeah, I think that's great. And next week, next Sunday, same time, same channel, we're going to have John, Floyd, and Barb, and they're going to answer the same questions, if probably identical, maybe a little bit more surprises in there. I don't know. But please come back and join John and Barb, and I know they'll do a great job. So thank you all so much. And I'm going to...
Hey, Catherine?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say, if anybody has something they want to ask privately, they just don't want to do it on here. If you do a search for me on Facebook, you can phone number in about half of them.
Well, do you want to provide your email right now and your phone number, and it's up to you if you want to or not.
Absolutely. Sure. If anybody wants to ask me something, if anybody has something to add, whatever, I'm game. My telephone number is 865-208-9703. And my email is H, as in the first letter of my first name, Shipley, my last name, MSSW@gmail.com. Anybody has anything and just doesn't want to, publicly or whatever, feel free, call, text, email, whatever you want to do. I'm happy. I love talking to my fellow owners and friends. I look forward to hearing anything anybody has to say.
And Heather's also volunteered for a great many things. And Tim also has spent a great deal of time helping Pinnacle Port already, as also Barb and John will tell us about. And Tim, do you want to share any contact information at this time?
Yes, my phone number is 706-325-5290. And my email is Timothy_110@msn.com.
Great. Okay.
And again, if anybody's got any questions or anything, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you so much. You both did an excellent job. I'm so impressed by you both. And thank you for doing a thankless, or volunteering to do a thankless job, but we really need you both. And I'm going to end the recording now and thank everyone for coming. And anybody that wants to stick on there and talk afterwards, you're welcome to. I'm turning off the recording. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Catherine,
Thank
for
you.
hosting.